was a ferocious warrior, but he had a lot of goodness and kindness in him as well. He had a number of wondrous possessions, among them a magic club, which was very useful in battle, and a great cooking pot of plenty, which was a bottomless source of life. However, the most amazing thing that the Doubter owned was his harp. It was made of wood from the magical oak tree, encrusted with jewels and gold, and it had a limitless store of exquisite music inside it. The harp was one of the Doubter's most precious possessions. He had simply to pluck the strings, and he could make wonderful things happen. He could make the seasons change, and he could make people forget their pain and sorrow. When the Tuatha were attacked by their enemies, the Doubter plucked the strings of his harp, and all his warriors were immediately ready to go into battle, prepared to defend their people. After the battle, the Doubter was ready with his harp again, with music to heal wounds and banish sorrow and misery. The healing music also made people think of better, happier times, and they celebrated their king. The Tuatha chief enemies were the Fomorians. With dark hair and eyes, they were completely different from the fair Tuatha. In the middle of a battle between the two armies, the Fomorians realized that the Doubter's castle had been left unguarded. They heard of the power of the Magic Harp, so they decided to steal it. They believed that if they could do that, they would defeat the Tuatha. They crept into the castle and stole the harp. They knew that they had to run far, far away, and so they gathered their wives and children and fled. When they had travelled a long way, they came across a huge banqueting hall, completely abandoned. "We'll rest here for the night," they said. "We've come a long way and we should be safe here." They sat down at the huge table and placed the harp in the centre and began to feast and celebrate. Suddenly the doors of the hall burst open, and there stood the Doubter and his warriors. The Fomorians jumped up, ready to defend their prize. Wow, beautiful illustrations. "Come to me," cried the Doubter. "Come to me, my precious harp." As soon as it heard its master's voice, the harp sprang from the table right into the Doubter's waiting arms. The Doubter pulled his fingers across the strings, and the harp played 3 chords. The harp began to hum, and then everyone heard a wail so piercing and sad that the women and children were soon weeping so hard that they could no longer see. The Fomorian warriors tried to comfort their loved ones, but the music had done its magic and they could not break its power. The warriors reached for their beautiful bronze spears, but before they could throw them, the Doubter plucked the strings of the harp again, releasing a chord that sent waves of happiness and mirth into the room. The warriors began to laugh uncontrollably until their spears fell out of their hands and they dropped their goblets of wine. They laughed until all the strength had gone from them, and still the chord could be heard bouncing on the walls, filling the hall and filling their ears. his warriors, taking the harp with him. Of course, that went quite quickly. But thank you for joining me. Maybe I'll see if I will read a second story. Have a look. Trying to find the beginning of one. Magic Harp. Okay. That's the beginning of one. Oisin in Ternanok. One day, similar to Vienna, while hunting deer on the shores of Loch Lane, I'm very sorry if I'm making any pronunciation errors, in Kerry, they saw a beautiful white horse coming towards them, ridden by the most beautiful woman they had ever seen. She was wearing a dress as blue as the sky in summer, studded with silver stars, and her long golden hair hung down to her waist. "What is your name and where have you come from?" asked Finn, the leader of the Vienna. "I have come from Ternanok," replied the woman. "My father is the king of that land. I am known as Neve of the golden hair." "But why have you come here?" asked Finn. "I have heard of a warrior called Oisin," answered Neve. "Tales of his courage and poetry have reached our land. I have come to find him and take him back with me to Ternanok." "Oisin is my son," said Finn proudly, "and he is indeed a great hero and a poet." Oisin came forward and stood before Neve, entranced by her beauty. "Tell me," he asked her, "what sort of country is Ternanok?" "Ternanok is the land of youth," replied Neve. "It is a happy place, with no pain or sorrow or death. Any wish you make there comes true, and nobody grows old. If you come with me, you will see that this is the truth." Finn was sad to think that his son would leave him in the Vienna, and made him promise to come back soon. "I promise," said Oisin as he mounted the white horse behind Neve. He said goodbye to his father and his friends, and the horse galloped away over the water, moving as swiftly as the shadow of a cloud on a windy day. The Vienna was sad to see their hero leave, but then reminded them of Oisin's promise to return soon. When Oisin and Neve arrived in Ternanok, the king and queen gave him a warm welcome and held a huge feast in his honor. In the days following the feast, Oisin explored the wonderful land with Neve, and found that it was all just as she had said. He hunted and feasted, and at night he told tales of the exploits of Finn and the Vienna, and of their lives in Ireland. Oisin had never felt as happy as he did with Neve, and before long they were married. However, as time passed, Oisin began to think of returning home for a visit, just as he had promised. Neve didn't want him to go, but finally she agreed. "Take my white horse," she said. "It will carry you safely to Ireland and back. But remember, whatever happens, you must not touch the soil of Ireland. If you do this, you can never return to Ternanok, and you will never see me again." What Neve didn't tell Oisin was that although he thought he had been away for only a few years, he had really been in Ternanok for 300 years. Oisin set off for Ireland, but when he got there, it seemed to him to be a very strange died soon afterwards, and all that was left were his beautiful stories, which will